If you're a salon or spa owner working nonstop, barely paying yourself, and terrified to step away because it might all fall apart, you're not alone. Most salon and spa owners were never taught the business side of this industry, and that makes it feel impossible to get ahead. Welcome to the station, where we give you the structure, systems, and strategies to step into the CEO seat and lead like the legend you are. Hey friends, welcome back to the station, the podcast for salon and spa owners who are over the burnout, done playing small, and ready to build a business that actually gives back what they put in. I'm Bree, founder of the Beauty Biz Agency, and as always, I've got my bestie and ride or die, my co-host and co-founder, Chandra, here with me today. Hey girl.
Hello, hello.
Are you ready to talk about how we used to swear that we were off when we were really just kind of working for free?
Oh yeah, I think everybody's going to be able to relate to this one, so I think it's going to be a good one today.
I agree. So many salon owners say, I took a day off this week. But if you look at what that day off actually looked like, it wasn't a day off at all. It just meant most of the time that they weren't behind the chair performing services. But in that time, they were still checking the group chat, fixing schedule messes, answering client DMs at midnight, stalking the booking app to see if people rebooked, or just trying to squeeze in payroll. Let me say this really loud for everybody out there in the back. If your brain is still in the business, you are not off. It's not a day off. It's not time off. It's what Chandra and I like to call hidden overtime. And I can tell you guys, we know this all too well because we both used to do it. I would block a day off on my calendar, but spend the entire day catching up on stuff for my studio. I would run errands. I would purchase inventory. I would answer team questions. I would restock the inventory shelves. I would look at my numbers. And I told myself, this is all just normal. It's part of being responsible. It's part of being a salon owner. But what I was actually doing is I was training my business and my team to depend on me for absolutely everything. And Chandra, I know you've been there too. You would block off a Friday, swear you were unplugging, right? But still spend half the day checking Slack, answering messages, fixing stuff for your team, probably things that should have been handled days ago before your day off even came. But now it's different. We both still run our studios. We both still lead our teams, but we are not getting chased down every 5 minutes anymore because we've built structure. We've put in the work that we needed to put in, and we have made space, real space between our personal lives and our businesses. One of the systems that helped us be able to do that was the decision layers. It's a simple, clear way to show exactly who handles what in your business and what shouldn't land on your plate as the owner at all. Chandra, when you think back on your old days off, per se, compared to now, what was the biggest shift that really helped you actually start protecting your peace instead of just dragging all of that work home with you?
I mean, I think when I started implementing some of these things that we're going to talk about, I really started to notice that I didn't have to be thinking about stuff all the time. I think the biggest shift was even though I was off, I still felt like I should be. Even though it's like a weird feeling, like you feel like you should still be doing all these things, even though you shouldn't be and you don't have to be. You feel like you're doing something wrong if you're not. Like, so that was a big shift for me to realize, like, I actually can have a day off. Things actually are going to be great. Don't have to think about anything to do with the business or check anything or deal with anything for at least a whole day.
It's so refreshing when you actually get to that point, and so many people think that it's just not possible. I know that we say this all the time, but salon and spa ownership is one of the only businesses that really keep you pulled in 24/7. And I think it's because, when we are going to beauty school, that's what we're taught. It's just the behind the chair, behind the chair, behind the chair. And so we think that that's our main goal. And then running the business becomes second. And in order to be able to fit all of that in, we have no other option but to work 24/7. And unfortunately, it should be the complete opposite, right, Chandra? Like our business should come first. And then if we have time, then we can go behind the chair and do the things that we think that we want to do.
Yep, for sure.
So, when we're talking to salon owners, we usually see two types of people. Type number one is the stylist owner. You are still behind the chair the majority of the time. Maybe it's 5 full days, maybe it's three, but either way, the bulk of your week is still tied to your schedule, to your client's schedule. Your CEO time is really just whatever you can find that's left over, right? In between foils, it's while color is processing, it's after the kids go to bed, things of that nature. And here's the thing, it's not because you don't want to focus on the business or because you're unmotivated. It's actually the opposite. It's that your business that you are providing with your own two hands is keeping everything afloat. You've convinced yourself this is the most responsible way to run things because you're the best at what you do, and you know your clients and your team rely on you completely. But the truth is, if you do not have uninterrupted time to think, you're never going to have time to lead. And if you're not leading, somebody else is going to. The danger with staying here too long in this spot in your business is you start running your business on scraps of energy, anything that you have left, which means you oftentimes start reacting to problems instead of actually steering the ship. And in business, if you aren't steering that ship every time that you're supposed to be in your CEO seat, there's a problem. It's a big problem. You become the firefighter instead of the architect, which is a big issue. It affects everything. Even though we don't see it, it has this domino effect, not only on yourself, but it does on your personal life, on your employees, on every single aspect. It's this cycle that you intentionally have to break. Chandra, how many owners would you say are type 1 right now?
I think the majority of them are. I think the majority of them are still behind the chair, still trying to do everything at the same time. So, I mean, I would say, yeah, at least like 80, 90% probably. And I think that's where we all start for sure.
100%. And it's something that we need to change in this industry big time if we ever want to see salon owners truly succeed the way that other business owners do. Type 2 is the micromanager. This is somebody who has stepped away from services the majority of the time, right? But you're still in the thick of it every single day. You're at the salon more than you plan to be. You're answering questions all the time. You are reviewing every decision that's made. You're checking the booking system every day. You're signing off on orders. You're doing all the things. Now, just because you're not behind the chair, you're still the center point for every choice and every problem. This usually isn't about really wanting control just for control's sake. It's a habit that you've created. You've been the one making every decision for so long that the business is just still completely built around you. And until you start putting in systems and processes and leadership layers in place so that it can help carry the weight, the business is always going to pull you back in. The danger here is you've traded your physical burnout for mental burnout, and the business is never going to be able to grow past the limits of your personal time, energy, and availability. Chandra, how many owners would you say live in this area right now?
I mean, I think a lot of them definitely do. I think actually, I feel like it kind of goes in that cycle. Like you start out like the first type, and then it's like you end up just like the second type. So it's like you move into those two different roles. So I think, the majority definitely, I think, are like the type one, but I do think we all somewhat end up as a type two owner at some point as we're trying to make those changes.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think it's kind of like you said, we've probably got, 75% still behind the chair, and then we've got a very small percentage that have moved over into that micromanagement area, and then like less than 1% who are actually in the CEO role where they need to be. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that is how that cycle goes. We all come by it naturally, right? Like there's no other way but to do that. The bottom line is if you're a commission salon or spa owner and you're behind the chair more than 20% of the time, you are capping your ability to grow your business, your team, and your profitability. If you've stepped out from behind the chair, but you are still in the building every day, working 40 plus hours a week, you're teaching your business to depend on you. And that is not why you started a business, or it shouldn't be anyway. Sure, you may have been okay with that at the beginning, but there is no owner out there that I have ever met that wants to be tied to their business around the clock forever. That is not freedom. It's just a different trap that you've gotten yourself into. Chandra, when you finally stepped back from behind the chair, and honestly, from doing absolutely everything in your studio, and you really leaned into leading instead of constantly reacting, what changed for your team, or what changed in the way that you showed up every day?
I mean, I think the biggest change that happened fairly quickly was in our culture. Like, we really were able to create that culture that I've been trying to build the whole time. Once I stepped back and I stopped doing all those things and I started actually leading them the way that I wanted to lead them. And then I think the other thing is how many people actually step up in your business and want to do more, want to be a bigger part of it. You don't always know that you have that many people or those people in your business until you step away. And so after doing that, like, I really realized I have so many team members who really want to do more and they want to be a bigger part of, of the salon, a bigger part of the picture. And so now we've paved the way for them to do that. When I got out of the way and let them start having, more responsibilities and start being a bigger part of what we're doing. I think those
I
are the
think
two
you
biggest things.
Yeah, and I think you said something so profound, your culture. Your culture. We all have this vision of what we want our culture to be. And it sounds harsh for me to say, but the owner is usually the one that is keeping that vision, that dream culture from happening. It's really sad. I can say this because I've done it. You can say it because you've done it, right? And so, for those of you out there, and I know we say this all the time and we have episodes over it, you have to get out from behind that chair. You have to get out of that micromanaging mentality because it is the only way for your business to really blow up in a good way. There's no other way to do it. This is why we teach the decision layers inside of the Beauty Biz agency. Because if you actually want to be the CEO, you cannot have every single thing running through you. You have to have a system so you can focus on the handful of things that really, really matter. And when I say handful, I mean handful. Your team has to know exactly how the system works, who handles what, where their lane starts and where their lane stops. If they don't, it's going to all come back to you forever. And if it's all coming back to you, you are never going to be able to guide. You're never going to be able to lead. You are just going to be a safety net for everything in your business for the eternity of your business. So here's how we kind of break down the decision layers. Layer number one is your team. This is the stuff that they should be handling without you even knowing about it, worrying about it, caring about it, right? Late guest, rebooking, retail questions, basic troubleshooting, the normal day to day. If they are coming to you for this type of thing, it's a sign that you haven't trained them enough or you haven't made your expectations clear. These are the things they should be able to solve in the moment so you're not getting pulled in over something very, very small or minute. Chandra, your team layer, how does that look in your business?
Yeah, like, we have different team members that are responsible for different jobs that I used to do, right? So we've kind of passed off all of those things to, again, team members who really wanted to take on more responsibility. And so even today, for instance, I have somebody training new team members today and yesterday. I'm not even there. I don't even know what's happening. I don't need to know what's happening because she's handling it. And so we've already worked everything out. She knows what to do. And so I think, really finding out, we have educators, we have people in charge of inventory, we have people in charge of team training, things like that, that have taken those off my plate. And, that's kind of how our decision layer, like our sort of tiers of who does what, it kind of works out.
Yeah. So layer number one is going to be your team. These are your stylists, your estheticians, all of those types of people. Layer number two is your leadership tier. This is going to be your manager, your salon coordinator, your team leads. They are going to handle the bigger operational pieces, scheduling, inventory, client complaints, solving minor client issues, right? The little parts of them, some of them you're going to have to take, but the smaller ones, making sure the salon runs smoothly day to day without having your constant input. They are really the bridge between the team, so your layer number one, and you, which means you shouldn't be the one dealing with these things unless it is a very, very rare exception. And then layer number three is what I call the owner apex. This is you. It's the owner. This is where all of your time belongs. Growth, big decisions, long-term strategy, deciding where the business is going and exactly how you're going to get there. This is not approving color orders. This is not rearranging the schedule for your team. This is not filling in at the front desk. This is actually steering the ship, steering the business. If you are stuck doing things in layers 1 and 2 all week, you are still working in the business. You aren't technically working on the business. And that's probably the reason why you can't get ahead in anything that you're doing. Now, once you create these tiers, we have to talk about what holds it all together. And this is going to be your systems. Without them, everything, and I promise you, because I made this mistake, it's going to fall back in your lap. And it's not because your team is trying to bug you. It's not because you haven't given them the tools or the clarity to handle it without you, maybe. It's just that they don't know or understand the process. And when they don't do that, they're always going to default to asking you. And that's going to keep you stuck in the middle. So you have to be very, very clear about the way that you do this. Chandra, when you started implementing these 3 layers in your business, I know for me, my team did really, really well for a couple of weeks. And then we kind of had a bounce back, right? Where everything kind of landed on me again. And so I would have to reiterate or make sure that my expectations were a little more clear, things of that nature. Did you find that it was the same for you?
Oh, yeah. I think, it took a while to really get these things up and running the way that they needed to be. And I think that's the thing. Like, you throw it out there, you implement it, you think you have it all ready to go. And then you find, there might be issues with it, or maybe they're not understanding, or, it takes a little bit more. So then you tweak it. And I think that's how you really kind of perfect those processes, because certain things aren't working the way that you thought, or maybe you forgot to add certain things into what they need to know. And so ours took a while. I feel like it was definitely a process, but once we got it where we needed it to be, then it got super easy. So I think you have to understand that it is going to be a process if you implement it, and there's going to be setbacks, and there's going to be things that you're going to have to change up along the way. It doesn't just happen. You don't write it out and go, poof, here we go. You guys know what to do, because we've all done that. And we know how well that really works out, right? So you definitely have to make changes and pivot throughout this whole process.
Yeah, I love salon owners, but I do think we are notorious for doing that. Just, I've told them, they understand, here it is, now take it. And that is not the way that leadership works. Unfortunately, it would be nice, but it's the same thing with parenting, right? You can't tell your kids one thing one time and them just go do it forever. It is a constant battle. But with systems, once you actually get them down, you really do get to stop repeating yourself over and over and over. So let's talk about 5 steps that you can take to buy back a real day off. Here's the thing, guys. Knowing the decision layers is one thing, living them is another. It's easy to nod along and say, yeah, my team should probably handle that. But until you actually build the structure, the playbooks, and the boundaries, it's all living in your head. And like Chandra said earlier, they're not going to understand it. They're not going to be able to do it. It's just not possible. If you want to get this real day off and start alleviating yourself from the business, and I don't mean the kind where you're off, but you're still putting out fires and doing things. I mean a real day off. You have to buy that time back, and you have to do it on purpose. So let's talk about the 5 steps. Number 1 is map the decision layers. Grab a sheet of paper, write out 3 columns: stylist, manager, owner. Those are your 3 layers that we talked about. And start writing real scenarios down. Who owns what? Be honest. I'm going to tell you guys, if your owner column is the fullest, you've got a problem. It should be your team is pretty full, your manager's really full, and yours is very, very small. Number two is build real playbooks. This doesn't have to be some huge binder. You have to have things in place. You have to have playbooks for each and every tier in your business. If a guest is late, here's what to say. Here's what to do. It needs to be clear, simple, and repeatable. This is what is going to build confidence and allow your team to start doing things on their own. Chandra, I actually remember when you started keeping the notes in your phone when I was coaching you, when we talked about it, of every little thing that your team was still asking you about. And then we turned that into real cheat sheets, into real playbooks. Talk about how that kind of changed the way that your team started showing up.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we can be more clear and we're catching all those little things, right? Like we're making sure that, if this is an issue that's coming up consistently, then there probably needs to be some kind of process around it, or there probably needs to be some kind of checklist or something around those things. And so once we gave them that information and started really putting that stuff together, they showed up very differently. I mean, they knew what to do. They have more confidence in their position, and they took charge of it, instead of me feeling like I'm constantly having to push them up the hill and tell them to do this and do that over and over again. It just made everything clear. And I think that's the biggest problem, is it takes a lot of work to make every single process in your business to be super clear, so that they fully know, they fully understand, there's no gray area. All the stuff in your head is out of your head and it's down on paper. And I think it's a lot of work to do that. But once again, you get it there, they know what to do then. You don't have to sit there and tell them over and over again, or take it back on your plate.
Yeah, and they have something to look back on, right? Like instead of you train them to do that, instead of coming to you and asking the question, they are trained to go to their playbook and look if they're not sure. And so that's a really, really great thing to have. Step number three, and I think this one is so important, is clarifying your leadership tier. Too many leads is going to be a problem, because at that point, when you have so many leads, they just become glorified messengers. You have to make it crystal clear what those leads actually own. And then you have to back them up when they start enforcing things, because your leads are going to enforce things and you're going to have to back them up. You can't jump in. You just back them up, build their confidence, and help them. Chandra, you and I have both had fake leads, people with a title, but actually took no authority, right? What shifted when you finally gave your manager or your middle tier actual power in your business?
I mean, I think the team really straightened up. I think everybody started really paying attention more to how they're supposed to show up in the business, because somebody else was actually watching them and holding them accountable, and making sure that they, have another support person too. It's not just about, laying down the law all day long. We also want that person to help build them up and help them reach their goals, and be their support as well. And so I think really giving that authority to somebody who finally took it on, and finally we had it all laid out, it changed that team dynamic, because now everybody realized it wasn't just me they were constantly coming to. They had more help, but they were also being held accountable by somebody else as well, which that was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think for me, one of the most powerful things are absolutely what you said. But for me, that's when I really noticed that I finally had time to start focusing on the things that mattered. And that is when my business took off. That's when I was able to start building case stylist in my studio. That's when I was able to take 2 weeks off to go on vacation with my family. That is when I was able to leave work and not think about it again. So for me, that was the huge power play and changed my life forever, to be honest with you. Step number four is train the system, then enforce it. You cannot say it once and expect it to stick. We've said this. So you have to review it. You have to walk through scenarios. And when someone skips the line in your decision layers, you need to redirect them back to the process. Chandra, you are the queen of not letting people shortcut the system. Like you're really good at this in your business. What does it look like when you are holding that line in your salon, when you are actually redirecting them back to the process when they kind of forget?
Yeah, I mean, I think once you've created those processes, it's easy to some degree because you already have everything laid out. And so when we have to revisit it, it's like we just go back like, hey, is this the way that we are put this together? Is this how this is supposed to get done? Or is this how this is supposed to be handled? And we always have something to go back to. So I find it's really easy. I mean, I tell owners all the time, like they struggle laying these systems out. Like we know coaching people all the time. This seems to be one of the hardest things is for them to hold themselves accountable and hold the business accountable and keep everybody on track. And once you have those things laid out, that's why it's pretty easy for me because I'm just like, hey, we already laid this out. We have a path. Follow the path. What happened? You went off the path. Get back on the path, and we'll be back on track, right? And so if you have those systems, you fall back on them as the owner, and you know, hey, this is this is what we have. Instead, I see so many owners that are like deviating off the path themselves, and like then they end up trying to recreate a whole new path, and it's like you don't have to do all those things. It's black and white. You laid it out, you just follow it. And if you fall off, you figure out why. We got to tweak it, change it, or just get you back on the path. So I think that's why it's pretty easy for me to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't allow yourself to just jump back in. As the owner, do not allow that. Chandra's right. If you, the owner, are veering off path all the time, what do you expect from your team? And so you have to lead them and show them we created this path. This path is proven to work. And so now we've got to, stick with it and get back on. Step number 5 is keep the owner lane tight. And I need you guys to hear me on this one because this is the most important decision you will make in your business. Every single quarter, you need to look at what's creeping back onto your plate. If you are approving stupid things, if you're answering front desk questions, if you're stepping in where you shouldn't, you're gonna have to reset. You have to reset. You need to make sure that your owner plate is staying very, very small. And if you notice every quarter that you're adding more and more things to it, you've got to figure out, once again, how to transition those to a different tier, which may mean kind of resetting your entire decision layers to an extent to make it work for you and your business. Because when growth happens, this is what I tend to find is that the owner starts taking over more things because their team is more busy with other things. But it shouldn't be that way. You just have to figure out how to redirect it in a way that is going to work for you. Chandra, what is something that used to be in your owner apex or your lane that you finally let go of and never looked back on?
I think one of the biggest things really is our education, training that we have in the salon. Like I always took that on. I always was the only one doing it. I always was the only one, putting in that time and effort and all those things. And now like we have a team that is very self-sufficient to train everybody. We have our training program digital, all the videos are there, like everything. It's just like all of that stuff that took a ton of my time because training team members takes a really long time and you put a lot of money and effort and everything into that. Taking that off my plate alone freed up tons of extra time. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And I know things are being done in the way that they should be, and they're getting trained quicker, even because I took myself out of it and I can have my team move at a much faster pace to get these people trained.
Yeah, I agree. I think hiring, training, and onboarding for me were the biggest things. And I 100% agree. Like my team got trained so much quicker because as the owner, you don't have time to sit there and train every day. I'm thinking of somebody that we're coaching right now who is building out their training program, and she's having to try to find time just to train new hires. Like these new hires are only able to work a couple of hours a week because the owner doesn't have time to train and onboard them the way that they need to be. So 100% agree with you. All right, guys, those are your 5 steps. And if you do that and if you create your decision layers, you won't be disappointed, I promise. Before we close out, here's a question from one of our listeners. How do I know when it's time to stop giving a stylist more time to improve and start making a decision about letting them go? I feel like this is one of those questions that hits a nerve because most owners wait way too long, in my opinion. We keep hoping the next training, the next pep talk, or maybe even the next month is going to magically just turn things around. But here's the thing, improvement is only improvement if it is measurable. And that's something that you guys have to keep in mind. If you are already giving very clear expectations, resources, and support, and you are tracking their progress for 60 or 90 days without a significant change, you are not managing a performance issue anymore. You are tolerating a standards issue. And we see owners let this slide over and over. Standard issues are going to affect your whole team. People get frustrated when people aren't catching on. People get frustrated when they're not pulling their weight. It's not about being mean. It's about protecting the culture and the business, whether it is skills related or it is behavioral related. Chandra, what do you do when you have someone who you really, really want to succeed, but you know deep down it was time to make the hard call like last week?
Man, I am so guilty of this. I've been guilty of this years ago. Not anymore. I do not do this anymore, but I kept people for years that I should never have let stay more than just a few months, because you could see that potential in them and you're like, I know they really want this and I know they're going to get it, and they're just not. And so I think now what we do, we give them 3 months. I mean, and the biggest thing that I look for is if they're coachable. If I can coach this person, if they're taking direction, then I can work with them. But if they're not getting it, if we're coaching them and they're still lost, or they're still, it's just not a good fit for us. Like, we move at a good fast pace these days, and I just had to accept that as the owner, instead of being the person that felt like I could make anybody amazing, because that's what I used to think. And you can't want it more than they do. And I think that's what starts to happen, is you start to feel like you're wanting it more than they want it. And at that point, they gotta go. And I mean, we 3 months, you're gone if you're not, getting it, and you're not being coachable in our business. So that's where you gotta get to, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think throughout that, we do the same thing, right? 90 days. And I think throughout that 90 days, you have to make sure, like I said earlier, that you are tracking everything, and everything has to be measurable, right? In the way that they are growing and the things that they are doing, like their benchmark should be going up. Their income should be going up. All of these things should be going up. Even when it comes to behavioral things, there are ways that you can track those things. And so you have to make sure that everything is surrounded by coachability and data. That's my 2 cents on that. At the end of the day, guys, you aren't going to get freedom by crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. As nice as that sounds, it's never going to work. You are going to get it by building a business that doesn't need you for every little thing. It's the only way. If you want a real day off, if you want to stop feeling like the whole place is going to fall apart the second that you step back or step out, it's never just going to happen. You've got to put the structure in place. You have to make it crystal clear who does what, and you have to lead it like you absolutely mean it. That is absolutely what we do at the Beauty Biz Agency. We help you do that so you can finally step out without everything falling apart. If you are ready to fix these types of issues in your studio, go grab our Decision Layers mini class. It's literally the exact framework that we use inside of our BBA Mastery program to build trust, to reduce burnout, and to put real leadership structure in place. And if you want even more help, we have a ton of free resources and full coaching options waiting for you at www.thebeautybizagency.com. Chandra, what would you say to the owner who keeps saying that they will do this once things maybe slow down, but deep down they know that day is never going to come because they have been living this same way for years?
I mean, if you don't just, sit down and take this on and make these changes, you won't ever feel like you have time to do it. It's never going to happen. There's never going to be a good time. There's never going to be an easier time. The only way things get easier is by implementing this type of system in your business. The only way you're going to get freedom is by doing that. And it's not easy, and it's going to take time, but the longer you wait, the worse it just is going to be when you finally do sit down and can't take it anymore and decide it's time to start this.
It's one of the most heartbreaking things ever. I was scrolling Facebook yesterday and I swear, I saw probably 15 or 20 posts in salon owner groups of people saying, Do I just give up? Like, do I just give up? This is what's been happening over and over and over, year after year after year. And it always makes me go back to my time when I was there year after year after year, right? But now I look at my life and I'm like, I just want to be on this huge platform and scream from the top of the mountain like, it does not have to be this way. There is a way out. You just have to take the steps to make it happen. And you have to invest in yourself and your business to get there. This is one of the things that I will say for sure. I don't know how, but by the grace of God, that I was able to do this on my own. It was really just that, because most people can never do it on their own. It just isn't possible. And so get the help that you need. You will start loving your business and your life all over again if you do. All right, guys, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a salon or spa owner who could use it. Also, make sure that you're following us so you don't miss an episode. And we would really, really appreciate a review. It's how we reach more salon owners and start changing this industry one salon owner at a time. Chandra, how can everybody out there listening keep up with the exciting things that we have going on over at the Beauty Biz Agency?
Yeah, definitely check us out on social media. You can find us at the Beauty Biz Agency on Facebook or Instagram, or the Beauty Biz Mentors on TikTok. And the first Monday of every month, we go live on Facebook and YouTube at 6 p.m. Central Time. You can hop on there and we can answer some of your questions live on the air. So definitely check it out.
Awesome. You've been listening to The Station, where beauty pros stop carrying it all alone and finally step into the CEO seat that they were meant to own. Until next time, protect your time, trust your people, and stop calling it a day off when you're actually still working. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and ditch that chair. And as always, keep slaying those business goals with a whole lot of swagger.